Navigating the world of complex financial news, especially something as intricate as a major bankruptcy proceeding, can feel like trying to find your way through a dense fog, right? There are legal filings, court rulings, terms that just make your head spin. But what if, there's a beacon of hope shining through that fog? Today, we're diving deep into one of the most talked about cases in recent memory, the FTX bankruptcy. And we've got some significant new developments that are offering just that, a beacon of hope for potentially thousands of previously impacted creditors. This is genuinely a story about a massive hurdle and, well, how it's now seemingly being dismantled. We've been immersed in our source material for this deep dive, particularly an insightful piece titled FTX Creditor Hopes, Jurisdiction Flexibility Ensured. Our mission today is really to unpack exactly what this means for FTX users and, well, anyone who's been following this complex, often disheartening saga. We'll look at what was happening, how things are changing now, why this shift is occurring, and maybe most importantly, what this means for you, the listener, and obviously the creditors affected.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here, I think, is how a recent FTX hearing has offered a very tangible, maybe even surprising path forward, especially for a specific and actually very large group of creditors, those in what were previously termed restricted jurisdictions.
Mm.
This is a development that fundamentally shifts the conversation. It goes from this idea of blanket exclusion to, well, a potential for widespread inclusion.
Okay, so to really grasp the significance of this new development, we probably need to understand the initial hurdle first. Before this ray of hope, there was a major legal problem that caused immense despair, really, for FTX creditors worldwide. Can you paint a picture of that initial challenge and just how widespread was the concern it created? What exactly was the problem that was put in place?
Absolutely. So the initial issue, it stemmed from a July 2 court filing in the FTX bankruptcy case. This document, quite starkly, listed a significant number of territories, 49 countries and regions, to be exact, where users may have been excluded from receiving any compensation at all.
49, wow.
Yeah, 49. Imagine the shock, the despair for individuals who had, their life savings or significant assets on FTX, only to find themselves potentially cut off purely because of their geographic location at a specific point in time.
Just based on where they lived.
Essentially, yes. This wasn't just some minor technicality. It created immense uncertainty and, frankly, frustration for what could easily be tens of thousands of individuals globally. It basically meant that even if you completed all your identity checks, did everything right by their rules.
Well, QIC and everything.
Exactly, your KYC. Your physical location could have disqualified your claim entirely, just like that.
That's a staggering number of places and, yeah, a truly devastating potential blow for anyone caught in that net. But, okay, here's where it gets really interesting, as you said. Our sources indicate this new development seems to directly address that previous exclusion. So what specifically has changed? What's the core update that brings this new, tangible hope?
Okay, so the core change comes from a very recent FTX hearing. During this hearing, an updated motion was presented to the court. And this new motion, well, it's expected to scale back or remove the clause, allowing for immediate forfeiture of claims based on jurisdiction.
Scale back or remove.
Right. This isn't just a minor amendment. It's a pretty monumental shift. It means that the previous, rather rigid blanket exclusion, the one based solely on where a user was located when FTX collapsed, or maybe at some arbitrary snapshot in time, is being fundamentally reconsidered.
So it's not set in stone anymore.
Exactly. This offers a critical lifeline, really, to those who were previously in complete limbo, facing the prospect of losing everything just due to a geographical technicality. It signals a move towards a more flexible and, frankly, more practical approach.
That sounds like a significant legal development, definitely. But for the thousands of individuals affected, the real question is, what does this mean for them? On a practical level, how does this flexibility actually translate into action, and what steps might they need to take? We've sort of moved from what happened to how it happened, or maybe more like how it can happen now for them.
Right, the practical side. This is where the updated motion introduces a crucial mechanism for flexibility. It explicitly clarifies that a user's jurisdiction is not locked at the exact moment a snapshot was taken.
Okay, what's a snapshot again exactly?
So the snapshot is basically a specific historical data capture moment. It's when FTX's assets and liabilities were first recorded for the bankruptcy purposes. The new motion says your location isn't locked to that moment, or even when your claim was initially filed.
Ah, okay. That distinction seems key.
It's a vital distinction, yes, because it acknowledges the dynamic nature of people's lives, their ability to relocate. Practically, this means creditors in those previously affected regions, and our sources specifically mentioned examples like China, or potentially Russia, may now be permitted to move.
Permitted to move, you mean physically relocate?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
Or demonstrate that they reside elsewhere now.
So if a creditor was in, say, China at the time of the collapse, and they were previously told, sorry, you're excluded, they now potentially have the option to change their physical location. That's quite extraordinary. And where could they relocate to still be eligible? Are there specific non-restricted examples from the source material? Like, where could they go and still potentially receive distributions?
Exactly. The source clearly indicates that they can move to jurisdictions like Singapore or the United Arab Emirates.
Okay, Singapore, UAE.
And crucially, still receive distributions. Think about the impact of that. If you're a creditor who completed all your necessary identity verification, your KYC, right?
Right.
And you happen to be in one of those previously restricted areas, moving to a non-restricted jurisdiction could now make you eligible for compensation. Whereas before, your location at that specific historical point might have entirely disqualified you. It's a pragmatic solution, really, to a very complex international problem.
So this sounds like it directly addresses those who maybe did everything right on their end, completed all their know your customer, the KYC requirements, which, just to remind listeners, that's basically verifying your identity, making sure you are who you say you are, helps prevent fraud and money laundering.
That's right.
But they found themselves in a difficult spot purely because of their geographic location at one specific point in time. Is that an accurate summary of who benefits most here?
Absolutely. I think that nails it. This development specifically aids users who completed their KYC requirements diligently, maybe in what later became restricted countries. But either they reside elsewhere now, or critically, they are willing and able to relocate before distributions happen. It ensures their past compliance isn't just, nullified by a geographical snapshot in time.
Right. It doesn't wipe out all the other steps they took correctly.
Precisely. It's a recognition by the court, it seems, that simply being in a certain country at a specific moment shouldn't automatically erase a legitimate claim, especially when the user has otherwise adhered to all the necessary procedures for verifying their identity and complying with regulations. It prioritizes the legitimate claim over a static location, essentially.
This raises a really important question, though. Why this shift? It seems like a major pivot from that initial quite harsh stance in the July filing. What's the broader context or maybe the legal rationale behind such a significant change in these bankruptcy proceedings? What kind of forced this evolution in their approach, do you think?
Well, I think what's truly fascinating here is the underlying rationale. It really speaks to the evolving nature of digital assets and international law. This change seems to reflect a strategic move towards ensuring wider distribution and ultimately maximizing the number of creditors who can actually be compensated.
Makes sense from the estate's perspective, too, maybe. Wider distribution is better.
Potentially.
Yeah.
It's also an acknowledgement, I believe, of the inherent complexity of global digital assets and the impracticality, maybe even the unfairness, of imposing overly rigid geographical exclusions in such a globally interconnected space.
Yeah, crypto doesn't really care about borders, does it?
Not really. Digital assets, by their very nature, don't respect national borders in the same way traditional assets do.
Yeah.
So this legal adjustment is, well, it feels like a critical step. It's aligning the bankruptcy process with that reality. It demonstrates the adaptability, perhaps, of legal frameworks in responding to these real-world complexities that maybe weren't foreseen by older laws. We're sort of seeing the courts effectively acknowledging that a crypto claim isn't tied to a physical address in the same way a traditional bank account or, a property title might be.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is a potentially groundbreaking precedent for future crypto bankruptcies and for international digital asset law more broadly.
That's a profound point. It sounds less like a minor legal tweak and more like a foundational shift, almost, acknowledging the unique nature of these digital assets. So it's not just about greater fairness for the individual, which is huge, but also about the larger legal system kind of adapting to a new global reality.
Exactly. This is a significant adjustment in what is still an ongoing, incredibly complex FTX bankruptcy case. No doubt about that. But it seems designed to mitigate the hardship caused by those initial very broad stroke restrictions that impacted so many seemingly innocent individuals. It really shows that even in the most seemingly rigid legal proceedings, there can be an evolution towards more pragmatic, maybe more inclusive solutions, especially when facing unique circumstances like those presented by a truly global crypto exchange collapse.
Yeah.
It feels like this system finding its way, even if maybe slowly. towards a more equitable outcome given the realities of the digital economy.
Okay, so we've covered the what happened, that initial restriction. We've covered the how this new flexibility and the mechanism for it, and the why, the legal adaptation and fairness aspect. But now what? For those who've been watching this whole saga, for the creditors themselves, what's the immediate practical takeaway? What steps, if any, should they be considering right now?
The biggest implication, I'd say, is undoubtedly renewed hope and a tangible path forward for potentially thousands of creditors who, just weeks ago, might have thought their claims were irrevocably lost simply due to jurisdiction.
That hope factor is massive.
It really is. It means that the possibility of receiving distributions is now back within reach, provided, of course, they take the necessary steps. Now, this could involve, for some, genuinely considering relocating to a non-restricted jurisdiction before those distributions are actually made. That's a big decision,
That
obviously.
very big decision.
For others, though, it might simply mean their existing claim, which was previously stuck in limbo due to this technicality, is now considered valid. It's a critical moment for those affected to pay extremely close attention to the unfolding developments and understand how this new flexibility specifically applies to their unique situation. They need to stay informed.
So the absolute key takeaway for them is that their location, as it was recorded at some specific point in the past, isn't necessarily a permanent barrier anymore. It's something that can potentially be updated or clarified. That's a huge difference, isn't it? It offers a real sense of agency back to those creditors who felt powerless.
Yes, precisely. Agency is a good word for it. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it really underscores the ongoing dynamic and, often messy nature of large-scale bankruptcy proceedings, especially within this evolving and boundary-blurring crypto landscape.
Yeah, it's uncharted territory in many ways.
It really is. It highlights how legal systems are still grappling with the unique challenges presented by digital assets that operate globally, often without a clear, centralized physical location. This case and this specific ruling, it definitely sets a precedent, or at least contributes to one, for how future international crypto insolvencies might be handled. It offers a potential model for flexibility that acknowledges the global reach of these platforms.
It truly highlights how crucial it is, as you said, to stay informed and how unexpected avenues for resolution can emerge even in what seem like the most dire situations. This development gives a new perspective on just how adaptable these legal and financial systems can be, even when dealing with something as novel and, well, catastrophic as a major crypto exchange collapse. It feels like a testament to the persistent efforts to find fair solutions, maybe.
And, this development concerning FTX creditors, it really raises an important question for all of us, I think. In a world where digital assets increasingly transcend physical borders and individuals can hold and manage significant assets remotely, how much further will our traditional legal and financial frameworks need to adapt? How much more evolution is needed to truly serve a global user base and ensure genuinely equitable outcomes in situations like this?
That's a powerful question, definitely worth pondering as we continue to watch these complex stories unfold and see how legal systems try to catch up with technological realities. We hope this deep dive into the latest FTX developments has given you a clearer, maybe more hopeful perspective on what's happening. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.